Do you ever look at your to-do list and feel like every single thing on it is urgent and important? Because since being diagnosed with ADHD, I've realized that this isn't a productivity problem, it's a nervous system one. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name's Mercedes, and I work with people on their nervous systems and on living their true, authentic selves. But I also have ADHD and it's recently diagnosed. And after all that time studying nervous system, looking into my ADHD, I've learned how much it influences my overwhelm and my energy and how I work and all those things that go with it. So by the end of this video, you'll kind of have an understanding of why ADHD makes everything feel urgent and how this links directly to your nervous system and a simple way to prioritize tasks that doesn't require you to magically figure out what's important, because that's where you have a real challenge. So one of the things I've noticed for me personally, and I think this is quite common, is that when you have ADHD, you really struggle with prioritization. And I just thought it was a bit weird because I would have coaches that would say to me, right, brain dump all of your things you need to do and then have a list, like have an Eisenhower matrix, I think it's called. And you have to put things that are urgent and important in one box and urgent and not important in another, and not urgent and important, and then not urgent and not important. And I would just look at my list and thought, well, why would I put something that's not urgent and not important on my list in the first place? Because, and so that I never had anything in that category ever. But actually, I found I had to, like, everything was urgent and important. And I had to kind of like say, okay, well, maybe this isn't urgent. Maybe it's just important. So I really struggled, basically. I wanted to put everything in urgent and important. And I never really understood kind of like why that was, why I couldn't figure out what was going on. And part of that is because of nervous system regulation as well, because when you have ADHD, you suffer from emotional dysregulation. So you brain dump all this stuff, and actually you look at that list and that dysregulates your nervous system. And when you're dysregulated and you're in that sort of like safety survival mode, everything looks like a threat, like it needs to be sorted. And so we get that. So your brain then tasks everything is urgent and everything is important. It's got to be done. It's got to be done. And then panic sets in, then overwhelm sets in, and then you freeze and you're looking at the system and then you don't do anything because you're overwhelmed by what is on that list. And so you either rush through stuff because you think, oh my God, I've got to get this done, or you just go, I just don't know where to start, and you don't start and do anything. And those are the kind of things that link ADHD to procrastination and to pressure rushing. And a lot of it comes down to the dysregulation of your nervous system. So when you're dysregulated, your system goes into this idea of, I need to fix everything now. So your brain is like, well, I've got to fix this and I've got to fix this and I've got to fix that. And it's panic mode, basically. And actually your capacity shrinks, but your urgency increases. So your ability to do those tasks goes down, but your urgency is really, really high. So you're living in that really dysregulated state. So when we actually then come to sort it out, you can regulate first. So it's actually then coming back into your body. So when you look at your brain dump and you think, whoa, there's so much to do, I don't know what's urgent, what's not important. The best thing to do is to then say, okay, I've got my list now. Before I start anything, I'm going to regulate my nervous system. So I'm going to maybe take a few deep breaths, or maybe I'm going to go and shake everything out just to release some of that tension that I'm feeling that's building up in my body. So I'm going to have a really good shake. And anything that works for you, maybe it's going for a walk around the block or going for a quick run, or it might just be chanting. So chanting the word om or humming can stimulate the vagus nerve, regulate the nervous system, and make us feel calmer. So all of those different techniques, and it's about trying them, figuring out what works for you, and learning your quick reset that's going to regulate you the quickest and the easiest. And then once you're calmer, you realize that only a few things truly matter today, and that's when you can start to work on your to-do list. So one of the techniques that I've been using as well is to get rid of this idea of important and urgent and not important, not urgent, because my brain can't process the concept of important and urgent in the right way. So I will ask myself two questions, and I know it is essentially doing the same thing, but it's how my brain works, and this might work for you if you find you get overwhelmed, is I ask myself what actually has to be done today. So this is different from thinking important and urgent, because for me, important and urgent is something that's important, right? Something important needs to be done, right? So it's important, but it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be done today. So what actually has to be done today? So if I don't do it today, there's going to be a problem. So if I don't pay this bill, or if I don't provide this information to my client, or I don't do this at work, that's going to be a problem, right? There's no like deadline. Can't push the deadline. It has to be done today. So those are the things I think, right, okay, those are the things I need to do today. And then I'll look at the other thing in my business. What's going to move the needle in my business or my life? So what is going to give me the biggest impact when I do it? And that way I can look at it and say, well, okay, these are things that I need to do. So I'm recording this YouTube video today. This is the first thing I'm doing. So I'm like, right, this is something that's important. It's urgent. It's not actually urgent, because actually if I don't do it, it's not the end of the world, but it's going to move the needle in my business. So that's why I'm doing it. And it's understanding that. So that's obviously comes down to understanding your business, or if you work for a company, what's the thing that's going to give me the biggest impact in my job that I can do today? Or if in your personal life, so if you're at home, what's the biggest thing that's going to impact my life, that's going to make me feel better? So if your house is really cluttered and disorganized and you don't have work that you need to do today, so is the number one thing for me going to be spending an hour organizing my house? And actually, those are the tasks that I focus on, the most important one. And they are important, they're important, but they're the things that are going to make the biggest impact in my life or in my business or in my work. And so understanding that. So rather than thinking important and urgent, what has to be done today, what's going to have the biggest impact? And those things, I think I find it much easier to think about, because I can understand those as a concept, and all the other tasks can still remain important, but they're not going to have the biggest impact today, so I'm not going to do them. And this kind of cuts through the overwhelm, because it's concrete, it's actually quite simple, and it actually doesn't rely on executive functions. So you don't have to have access to when you're stressed, because if you rely on executive function, that's like actually decision making. What's important, what's not important, what's more important than something else, right? I don't know. How do I determine if that's more important than that? I don't really know. What's going to have the biggest impact on my life today? What do I have to do? What if I don't do it today? Am I going to get in really big trouble if I don't do it? Right? Those are the things that work for me. And I want to say this really isn't a thing about productivity. So I'm not trying to make you more productive, because I don't believe in measuring my worth by my productivity, because the thing that might have the biggest impact in your life today might be doing self-care and resting and having a day off, right? That might be the most important thing to do today, because that might be the thing that's going to have the biggest impact in your life, because you might be run down, burnt out, overwhelmed, and just needing a break. And understanding that may be the number one thing. So this isn't about being more productive. It's not about getting more done. It's about listening to your body. So when I create my day and I structure my day, so I do try and create a structure to my day. Whether I stick to my structure very much depends on the flow of the day. But I like to kind of create an idea of a structure around my day. And I will have my work tasks factored in there. I'll have my personal admin stuff that needs to be done, like tax returns, they'll be factored in. Home maintenance and tidying, keeping the house on track, that will be factored in. And I'll also have rest and personal time factored in for my day. Because if I don't take that time, if I don't take a little break from me in the day, that's when I get overwhelmed, it's when I get exhausted, and when it's like I'm more likely to burn out. And so it's understanding my own personal rhythms. When have I got my most energy? When can I do my most productive work? And when am I going to be able to fire it off? And when do I know that I'm actually not going to be really up for doing lots of work? And is that a good time to factor in maybe some pottering tasks, or like just a little bit of tidying around the house? Or maybe it's time to factor in doing a yoga practice for me, or a relaxation or a meditation. Maybe that's the time to factor those things in, or going for a walk. Or sometimes I like to walk to the supermarket just to buy some bits that I need to catch up on, even though I could drive, but I like to walk it and walk back. Maybe that's the time to factor that in, because my brain's not going to be functioning on its full alert. So this comes down as well to understanding your own body, your own nervous system, how you function, so that you create your days around you and how you operate, and not how society says we should have our days. And when I do this, it allows me to keep my nervous system regulated because I'm factoring in nervous system resets throughout the day as well. So I'm thinking, okay, right, these are the tasks I'm going to do in the morning for this amount of time, then I'm going to have a reset. Then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to have a reset. And then I know that's going to happen throughout my day, and it's kind of factored in on my calendar, there to look at and there to actually do. So if you are at the stage, right, and this is just very practical for you, if you're at that stage where everything feels urgent, you've got your list, everything looks really urgent, the first thing to do is step away for a minute or two. Actually step away from your list. Stop looking at it, stop thinking about it, and regulate. You don't need to be perfect at anything. You just need to find that point for regulation that we talked about earlier. So it might be breathing, might be shaking, might be doing something physical, whatever it might be, humming, whatever works for you. And then ask yourself the two questions. What do I absolutely have to do today? And what's going to have the biggest impact in my life? And so this breaks the everything is a disaster loop. I can't cope, there's too much to do. So we're breaking that loop, and you're getting clarity without forcing yourself to prioritize in a way that your brain can't do. So you're not having to sit there and go, right, this is urgency number 1, this is urgency number 2, this, right? You don't have to figure that out. Just ask yourself those simple questions, and that will get you there. And it'll get you moving, and then you'll get some stuff done. And then you'll feel better because you'll have got some stuff done rather than sitting there looking at your list thinking, I don't know what to do, right? So it's just about allowing yourself to get started, do something, and reduce the overwhelm in your brain. Because when we have that nervous system dysregulation and the overwhelms looping in your brain, that's when actually we start to lean towards burnout and that discomfort, because we're really overwhelmed. And often that overwhelm is because we don't know how to prioritize what we've got to do. So when we can do that, it reduces that overwhelm, makes life feel easier, and we don't end up going anywhere near burnout. So that's how I see it anyway. So if you feel like you can't prioritize because everything feels urgent, nothing is wrong with you. You may have ADHD, you may not, you may just have lots of stuff to do. And your nervous system dysregulation may amplify this and make it worse. And when you regulate first, your clarity comes back, and you don't need a complicated system. You just need a calmer body. So if this has spoken to you, remember to drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe as well so you get more of my stuff. And if you would like to connect deeper on this, maybe have some small practices you can try for your regulation, come and join my free group on school, The Sacred Pause. I will drop the link in the description, and I'd love to have you on the inside.